they got there, you could see the machine had actually opened up a black hole, and the portal said it was like the space above them was distorted. They could see things like hands like trying to come through. My name is L.A. Kendrick, and I've been, I got involved with this, as a kid, because as a kid coming up, I'm from Kentucky. So back home, we saw and heard everything. We have a massive history of cryptids and paranormal, and from everything from the Cherokee Park with the Trail of Tears to what is it? The Lake Barkley and Land Between the Lakes. So we have a little sum of everything. And so as I got older, I decided to write books. I have 8 books out published right now, and travel a lot. I travel a lot to make sure and to see some of these places and the phenomenon, which would be Bigfoot, cryptids, and anything along those lines. So I've always been attracted to this as long as I can remember. Scared as a child, but as an adult, just fascinated by what we're seeing and information, and some of the little incidents that I've had and some incidents that friends of mine have had. So it's just one of those things where it just grabbed me, and it didn't let go. And again, like I said, I write about it, talk about it. I've
When you
done.
were when you were a child and you had those fearful kind of, which of course that would be normal as a child. But did you know people that had these experiences, or was it just something, like books and movies and things like that gave you that sense of intimidation about Bigfoot?
Um, I had some friends in the mid or the early '80s. We were really, really young, and they had an actual um, Bigfoot encounter, which we'd already seen the $6 million man, and they had an actual face to face with one of these things, and I thought, wow, you know,
What did they tell you about it? What was their experience?
he it was 2 brothers, and they had gone fishing, right, and this is a place called Avalon Trailer Park, back where I'm from, and it's really, really wooded area, and they went fishing, and um, it was 2 sets of brothers, and Pitt. Well, I'm gonna use Pitt because he was the one that was telling the story. I'm gonna use that name, Pitt. So Pitt had said they were looking for another spot because they like to move around when it comes to fishing because of the fish bite differently in different places. And what he had done, they had went to an area deeper in this area that they would normally not go. So they had to climb over rocks, and they said the rocks were cutting them up, things along those lines. And when they got to the fishing spot, they actually had good pickup on the fish. The fish were biting, they were bringing a lot of fish in. But he said that the 4 of them heard some rustling behind. He said they thought they were like some wild animals fighting, because we have this thing called wildcat holler, where the hairy man, they say, frequents back in that area. But he said he thought it was just some squirrels or something fighting, but it was making a lot of noise. So they just kept turning around occasionally to see what it was behind them. And when they did, they all got up and they went to the area because they said they saw a shadow, creeping through the wood line. And they said they got a little bit closer, and they said this thing stood up. He said it was about 9 to 10 feet tall. He said it roared at them so loud, it pretty much just paralyzed them to the point where they didn't want to move. And it was covered in all white hair, and it just busted out of the wood line towards them. They just took off running, trying to get away, climbing over the rocks. And they actually managed to get away, of course. And he shared his story with his dad, because they left all the fishing equipment, the fish, they left everything. They said they had a massive amount of fish. And when they did, they got home and explained to the dad. The dad, of course, didn't believe him and said, you better go back and get my fishing gear. So they went back the next day, and he said when they got back there, all you saw was fish heads laying all over the place. The rods were crushed. And I said, well, I don't know much about fishing rods, but I always thought the poles were really flexible. He said they were crushed. He said the rod and reel, I'm assuming, he said they were smashed flat. He said, and they never went back to that particular fishing hole. They went to another one, to make sure that they continue their fishing. I didn't know what to think as a child. It scared me, of course, because Rusty had told me the same story. So I combined the stories, and I just talked to Pitt about a week, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and just to verify, right? Because again, like you, I do research, and I researched if you know if he was joking. He's not one of those internet guys that gets on the internet. He's not that kind of guy. He's one of those tough, rough street guys, right? And I kid you not, Maysville, Kentucky, back in October the 10th, 1980, had the exact, and this is right around the time that this happened to them. And Maysville is about 4 hours from where we're from, where we're located. And it had a white-haired Bigfoot that was terrorizing that area. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And they're actually having some kind of remembrance for that issue in that situation. So I sent them the link. I said, I know you're not real computer savvy, but check this out. And it ties in. I thought, wow. And that was the one that got me. That scared me the most as a kid.
I understand. About how old were you?
Oh, I was about, oh God, 9, 8, 9. And you know how kids are coming back in elementary in the classrooms and they're sharing their story. He's a white guy already, but Rusty was pale when he came back and explained it the next day. Sparky wouldn't go back. Sparky said, I'm done. He was the youngest of the group. He said he wasn't going back. So when they went back to get all the equipment, Sparky didn't go back. Only the 3 older guys went back. And I really thought Rusty was lying. Not necessarily lying, but I was thinking, dang, what would it be? Because I didn't go out in the woods and stuff like that. And when Pitt and Rusty both shared the stories on different occasions, I'm talking about decades apart, right? You're like, oh snap! So this did happen. This isn't a joke. And then again, there's verification where you can actually see even the law enforcement was called in because this thing was terrorizing them. They shot at it a couple of times. There were footprints left around. It had turned over barrels of food on their patio, on their front porch. Remember, Kentucky's kind of sticks. It's some of the places out in the sticks. So even turned over some of the meat lockers and refrigerator freezers that they had on the porch. So we were pretty young when they shared that story with me.
That would be really scary to have them come that close up to and perhaps in your home or on your porch. And were they looking for food in the freezer? Did they take anything out of the freezer?
Yeah, they according to this report, they're saying I'm pointing at the laptop. According to this report, they're saying that it had actually taken like hot dogs and some hamburger meat and some other things, and it just baffled it baffled me. And again, I was thrilled because I love this kind of stuff. Now I'm not afraid of it. Now I'm not gonna go out in the woods by myself in the dark, but even though I have the infrared stuff and the night vision goggles, even though I have all that equipment, I'm not real comfortable. I don't know any guys around here that'll go and check this kind of thing out. I don't know anybody that would do that. So basically, I'll get viewers that'll send in. I had one viewer send in a really spooky one. And that's how you got the footprint that I showed you in the video that we made, that I sent you.
Yes.
That's how that one was creepy. That one was creepy. That's the one that that was my personal experience and seeing it. Like, okay, what is this? And I don't know what you thought about it when you saw it. I don't have any idea what you thought when you saw what I sent. So that one was pretty wild. That was pretty wild.
Well, I'm not going to give it away to the audience until they see it. So I'll give my opinion later on. But yeah, thanks for sending that to me. So that took you on a journey. You were scared as a kid, but then you got it verified later on, and then that took you on a journey of researching this more, going out and traveling and writing the books. Tell me about your books.
With my book, they're adult sci-fi. And that's the Destiny versus Chaos series for the adults like us, because the language is different. But then I have a offshoot version of it called The Benefits of a Bully, that is explaining to kids and sci-fi and cryptids and They're like the junior version of the Men in Black. They go out and they hunt the things that we're talking about and we're speaking about. Because again, if you're from where I'm from, I'm telling you, it's not just Bigfoot. There is UFOs, there is Dogman, or we called it werewolf back then. Or you'll see even we have more. I think I've seen more paranormal stuff, supernatural ghosts, things like that. Um, those are the things that I've experienced the most. But that when I write the books, I put my travels in and what I've seen firsthand. I'll do research about hard factual evidence of things that like the Nazca lines or um, just anything that can tie in and make sense out of what we're seeing. And I put it more like in a superhero genre and format. That way it appeals to everybody. So everybody gets a little something. And, it's got its romances in it. It's got a lot of, action scenes and things along those lines, but definitely wanted to make sure that I talked about these things and that I put as much out. Even on my uh, page, I have a thing called Would You Dare, where I share with the viewers and things that they sent in and shown me and talk to me about. And like I say, doing a lot of public speaking in libraries and Barnes and Nobles and things like that. When they ask me to come in, I'll come in and I'll share what I've seen
Yeah,
and what the
it's
view.
nice when you have a book like that. Those are good opportunities. Let's go back to okay, you haven't seen an actual Bigfoot, but you've had paranormal experiences. Let's talk about some of those.
Which one do you want to talk about? The ones as
Which one's the most dramatic to you?
oh man, God, I would say the footprint that I sent you, that wasn't so traumatic because it was adults around us. It wasn't. Well, actually, it was only three of us. But I think the one that was really traumatic for me as a young adult, because again, as you get older, nothing should affect you the same way. But this actually affected me because we were playing this game called we were playing video games, and it was 2K NBA 2K. It was on the Dreamcast, right? So, you know how guys will come over, you guys like you'll play video games, and it got really late. I think it was like maybe 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, in my house, we would occasionally see stuff and hear stuff but only me and the middle sister. So six of us. So me and the middle sister would always experience the stuff, and I thought that was kind of ironic. And me and one of the guys, his name, I'm gonna use his name Beak. I got the weird names back home. So Beak and me were playing the game, and there was nobody in the house. So we were facing the TV, of course, and behind us was the living room, and we could hear something walking around in there. And I live there, so I'm thinking, maybe he didn't hear that, maybe he did. So I look at him, out of the corner of my eye, and he didn't move. So the next time you could hear the shuffling of feet, like something was running around in there. We don't have any pets, anything like that, no kids, there's nothing. It was just me and him. And we heard the shuffling and something knocked something over. And then he paused and he looked at me and I looked at him. Did you hear that? He said, yeah, I heard that. And I said, we stood up and we walked slowly into the living room and nothing was in there. We turned on the lights, we looked around, we searched all the rooms, nothing, nobody in the house whatsoever at all. Then we sat back down and restarted the game up all over again. We had it on pause and we started the game back from the point that we had paused it. And it happened again. Only this time, I kid you not, it felt like a force was running from that room right at us. And I mean, we both stood up. It pretty much knocked us down. We were scrambling, trying to get up and trying to position ourselves as, to brace and go, oh, whoa, what is that? He freaked out. I'm freaking out. And again, I'm here. I live here and I've seen stranger stuff than that. That one really messed with me because we're adults. And I'm an adult at this point. I'm in my 20s, right? And it floored me. I said, look, when my mom comes tomorrow, please make a trip over here and tell my mom what you witnessed. So the next day comes up, because I had to sleep there, right? And so I had my gun as I was sleeping. I had slept with one eye open. So I had my gun set next to me. And I mean, what is it going to stop? You can't It's not a spirit gun. You're not going to stop ghosts or anything like that, or whatever that force was, right? And he told my mom, he said, yes, ma'am, this is what we saw. This is what happened. This is what came at us. We don't know what it was. And it just came at us. And he said, I wouldn't make this up to you. My mom, of course, she didn't believe me. But that was, that one, whew, that one slapped me pretty good, because as an adult, you're thinking you got everything figured out. And I didn't know. I don't know what that was. I have no idea what that was. But there's always been something weird in that house. Always. Always.
You've probably heard all of the talk about, Bigfoot maybe not being flesh and blood, maybe being a paranormal figure coming through portals and things like that. Have you heard those stories, or is any of that in your books?
It is. I just did a take on my my thing, where I talked about the portals, and there's two parts to that. The one thing, and this one's kind of weird because I just did it, and they can go look at it, but I want to share this with you since you brought that up. I was explaining how energy transfers and how you could. This is just one of my thoughts. Like they say, Bigfoot disappearing and coming in and out, because even with the footprint that we found, we only heard the growling, right? We didn't see anything, but we saw the coyotes chasing the deer across the big parking lot. Well, you know what they say about that. If you see, and because I know the rest of my clients didn't know, because I'm a fitness trainer as well, they didn't know. So when I'm seeing the coyotes chase the deer, I'm looking for the Bigfoot. And it's a wooded area, and everything is shut down due to COVID. So we were at like stage 5 or whatever. It looked like a ghost town in that area. The day that I heard the grumbling and the growling, the guy that was with me didn't hear it originally. Later, I think maybe when he's in the middle of doing burpees, he could hear it. He heard it the second time. I said, did you hear that? Because it was a low, like it vibrated, like not like a roar, but it was just a low growl, and you can vibrate the chest, like they say, infrasound. And I said, did you hear that? He said, yeah, and that wasn't no coyote. I said, so I threw my hands up with that. But in the book, I try to explain, let's just say this, Linda. You know how you have extraterrestrials, and they say the distance from our planet to their planet is too great a distance to travel with the technology that may be available because the speed of light is limits or whatever. Well, again, some of these technologies and some of these advanced alien civilizations, because I believe there's something out there. I do. And I think they're here. But they may have the technology to enter through dimensions. If you look at the Nazca lines, right, you see how they seem like they're like runways. And my philosophy was, at the end of the runways, there's a portal that they know how to operate and open. And they have portals all over the planet, like ley lines, as they call them. So you have these ley lines, and perhaps when they come through, maybe Bigfoot's in another dimension, in another environment, and somehow gets sucked into our dimension. And some of them can't get back, because they've been sucked in through alien technology that opened up a portal. They either wandered through or they got sucked in. So now they're here. They say some transverse mediums where they can go back and forth, and I believe some are stuck here where they can't go back. And they've adapted very well to our environment, but the Native Americans say they've been here so long. But aliens, if you look at hieroglyphics from the Egyptian artifacts and pyramids and things along those lines, they show depictions of flying saucers or flying vehicles. So they've been around for quite some time. So I believe in the portal energy. Any possibility I take with a grain of salt, but then I stop and ask myself a question, because we don't know everything. We don't have all the answers as much as we may think we have all the answers. And I think people at higher levels know way more than they're sharing.
And that very well may be, and a lot of this phenomena does mimic one another, UFOs appearing, disappearing, coming out of nowhere, traveling at high speeds. Bigfoot too, sometimes disappear. It in a flash, it's gone. Traveling also at remarkable speed, running up a hill or a mountain, and takes like 5 seconds, where it would take a human like forever to go up this brushy. And sometimes they even refer to them as gliding, like they're not even touching down on the ground.
Hmm. Yeah. All of those things they factor in. Again, and I'm on the path of one of your. I just saw one of your cast podcasts, and I think the last guy. I like what he said. I literally don't think they're all friendly. I don't. I had a viewer send in his experience with one in Houston County, Tennessee. It's called Aaron, Tennessee. I know exactly where he's talking about. It's Houston County, Tennessee, and it's right there near land between the lakes. And his experience was it was terrible. I wouldn't wish that on the dead man what happened to him. And you know how people don't want to they want to remain anonymous. They don't like, they just want to share their experience because they want to get it out. Um, I've talked to so many people. You'll just be at Dave and Buster's and you'll be with some people and they'll share their experience, whether they know who I am or whether they don't know who I am. They're just with somebody else. And I'm ex-military as well, so a lot of military guys will swap stories on what they've seen and what they've been privy to. They don't go too far because they don't want to be penalized or lose clearances and things along those lines. But um, I've talked through some stuff, people, and as you say, portals. I mean, I've had ex-military guys talk about how they've gone over to CERN in Sweden that has the what is that the collider? I can't remember the name of it, where they open black holes, where they force black holes open. And man, he shared a story that these guys share such vivid stories. I keep thinking, man, if this is legit, we in trouble. I just some of the stuff that they said, they talked about,
Anything
and
you
you
can
could,
share? Anything that they said you can talk about?
yeah, whatever they share, they're sharing what they can talk about. Which one do you want to hear about? The guy with that the thing attacked him on the road while he was running, or do you want to hear about the guy that his military unit had got shipped to CERN to deal with a portal opening, and some things came out of the portal, and they had to fight
No,
them back and push
tell
them
me
back.
about that one. Tell me about the things coming out of the portal.
Okay, there was we were at Dave and Buster's back in I think it was 2009, and me and one of the guys were two other military guys and myself. We were talking about just we were just playing air hockey, and the food came and we sat down and we started eating and things. We were talking about dimensions and portals and things like what we're talking about. And he said that have you guys heard about the portals being open? So we talking about, and he said the stuff in Sweden. And at the time, I had no idea what he was talking about. Then I did a little research because it started flashing all over the news. And I said, okay. And if you go back and look, Linda, you can't find this article anymore. They said they actually opened up some black holes and they only lasted like 50 seconds, right? I can't find the article anymore. And I thought that was a dangerous thing. I was like, oh, this is bad because trust me, a lot of times they say they open up something small, they usually open up something big. Nonetheless, the guy tells me he was stationed in Germany because of course, the US has, posts all over the world. And they got a call because over in Sweden, the CERN, the information, the center that CERN is, had opened up a portal, and they called it a portal to hell. Those are his words, not mine. He said when as they were flying in, they had a lot of distortion. The plane was having a lot of issues flying through. He said he knew something was wrong then. He said his CO was just, pretty much like, taking it in because apparently he's used to this. But when they got there and they landed and they actually made their way to the base, this is what he says. He said that it smelled like sulfur. He said, and the things that were laying out looked like demons, but they were covered. And I said, okay, all right, this is getting good. This is getting good, right? And he said, as they traversed in further, you could hear, he kept calling them lab coats. And I guess they're doctors or scientists, whatever. He kept saying lab coats. And he said when they got there, he said you could see some of the lab coats that had been deleted, transition, or whatever you want to call it, dead. And he said that scared them. So they told them to get their weapons ready, and they went at the low ready. And when they got there, you could see the machine had actually opened up a black hole. And the portal said it was like the space above them was distorted. And he said you could actually see in, and he said it had a real pungent smell of sulfur. And he said he could see things like hands like trying to come through and faces. And I was like, oh snap. And I'm like, this is really getting good. So I'm like, okay. Um, he said they took the weapons off the safe and they started firing at that spot. And he said no sooner did they start firing at the spot, the fingers went back in, the hands went back in, and they tried to make one more leap out or come out, is what he said. And he said that they actually were able to shut the machine down, portal closed. And I thought, I'm thinking, did it cut the hand off? Did it sever the hand? He didn't say. All he said was when they got debriefed, he said he did not re-up. He said that was the scariest thing he's ever gone through in his life. He said that he still has nightmares about it to this day. He said there are other things that happened that I can't even share with you. He said, but if you saw what I saw, he said, I don't know if you believe me or not believe me. Now, the guy that was with him, our mutual associate, he agreed, he believed. And I again, because my mind is always open to whatever. Right? I don't shut my mind off and say, "Oh, that's impossible. That's crazy." I think, you know what? Yeah, man, there's a good chance something happened. And so I believe something happened. To what degree, I don't know, but something happened because the military is always doing something. The government is always doing something. Again, I mean, I traveled everywhere, and just to verify some of these spots. I just got back from Area 51.
Let's go back to this story for just a minute, because I have a couple of questions for you. Did he describe what those faces that were coming out of the portal looked like?
He said he just saw the hands, and they were long, skinny hands and fingers trying to come through, like they were trying to crawl through and come through. And he said the sulfur smell is what got him. And the hands would have got me, but he said the sulfur smell is what got him, and it just freaked them all out. And as they started unloading on it, it backed in. It went back in, and then it came back like the bullets didn't have any effect on it because it's just like shooting in the air.
Why did it take them so long to get the machine shut down? Obviously, if there was long enough period of time for them to call in the military and they're there shooting at them and things are crawling through, but what was the slowdown on shutting down the machine? I obviously don't understand the complexity of this huge thing. And I know the machine you're talking about, but I don't understand the complexity of that. But I wonder why. I mean, obviously it would have taken some time for them to get there.
That's my thing. And I think that's why they called them in, because they couldn't. I'm going to speculate, right? And maybe I'm wrong, and I should. And he wasn't so forthcoming with all of the information. He was just trying to tell us enough to let us know and share and get that off of his chest, because of course you can't talk about it while you're in, because they pretty much say, well, you don't talk about it, you don't disclose information, you don't talk about it to the rest of your peers. I think that the energy that came from the portal on the other side was strong enough to keep it open, so they couldn't shut it down. So they called in for U.S. military help to help quell what had already come through, because if their bodies already land there, and they said that they were covered and they had that strong sulfur smell. And now he said that there were the feet were really scaly looking, and they had he said he saw a tail sticking out of one of the blankets that had covered one of the bodies, and that's how he knew something, that it wasn't human. So that's what scared him. And he's a real religious guy, in the military, he's a real religious guy. So I think that they called them in because they couldn't shut it down, and they needed to make sure that the situation was hush hush.
They also needed to close the portal. I mean, if this thing was wide open, maybe it took some steps to get the portal shut, not just the machine shut down, but make sure the portal wasn't still open.
Right. So they were the backup, along with the Swedish military. They again, I'm just trying to connect the dots like you, because I was trying to figure it out. I was thinking, geez, this is intense. And you can again, I tend to believe that what he said he saw, because you can look at the guy, was it Snyder that had the thing happen in Duluth, Mexico, or was it where they said that they had that shootout and it took some of his fingers away? Um, you can look at that as government involvement and the underground base that was there. There's so many things that when we get involved, right, that there are no explanations for, and it doesn't come out until somebody steps forward and says, "Hey, this is what I experienced." I'm just
Did he
trying to put
say,
the double.
did he happen to say if any of these, and I'm just going to call them creatures because I don't know what else to call them, these things that came out of the portal, did he happen to say if any of them got loose on the earth and are still out there anywhere? Or did he know?
The only one that he said that he saw was the one that was covered, and they had to tell him the scaly feet or the feet. And he said it was another, he said it was another one laying beside. So apparently they killed at least two of them. And he didn't specify.
Do you know by what means they did kill them? Did they respond to like bullets like a human would?
I'm not. He didn't say what killed them. I'm going by when he said he shot at the thing coming through. It really had no effect. I have no idea what brought those two things or those things that he saw down that were covered. But I'm like you, as he shot at them as it was coming through, they managed to force him back. So by them forcing him back, and then it came back out again. So the bullets obviously didn't have any effect. I have no idea what would have what brought those other two down. But he didn't specify. He didn't say anything about anything coming through that got out. But he did say the things that he witnessed after that he can't talk about. So I didn't press him. I don't press him. So.
And was anyone with him that also experienced this, or was he by himself?
No, he had some of his unit was with him. So that's when they got the order with the CO to go ahead and open fire. And he said it was about 5 other guys with him, other soldiers with him. So, and I should have asked, are you special ops? Because again, sometimes what you don't want to do when these guys are sharing their story is stop their flow. Because they may regress back and say, well, I'm not supposed to be talking about this. And I don't know if I can trust you. I think he was sharing with us because we were all military at the time having that discussion and those conversations. I think that's why he felt comfortable. But I would not have wanted to take that mission on. Not now if I was called to do it, yeah. I'm saying I wouldn't want to voluntarily do that. But if I was called on to do my duty, I would do my duty. But
do you think some of these cryptids and Bigfoot cryptids, some of the aliens, of course, do you think it's possible that they're coming through these portals too? I guess you already said that, so I suppose you do. That might be the possibility that that they're here because of various reasons that portals are opening more.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I believe wholeheartedly that because we're so limited in what we think and what we do, right? I always say, I think that they're here. I think that a lot of things are here right now. And I was talking to one of my guys and we were having this discussion. And he said, I never thought of this. And I said, yeah, this is what I've been thinking about. I said, how do we know right here, Linda, right now, in your house, right next to you, or in my apartment, or wherever you're at right now, there's not something in there? Because every now and then you'll feel like there's something around you. If you've ever had that feeling, but you can't see it, have you ever had that feeling?
Mm-hmm, sure.
Okay. I said, what if there is something right there watching you, but it's like 1 second or 1/2 a second phase out of our existence and our reality, where you can't see it, but it can see you and monitor you. And if it decides to do something to you, got you, or not. But I said, just all it has to be is one phase out of your frequency by a second or 1/2 a second. And guess what? They're right there. The technology, if they had 1 million to 2 million, 500 million years to advance their technology, guess what? They would have capabilities that would seem like magic to us, as turning on a light bulb would be to the medieval times then. So there are things that we have to accept or not accept. And I believe more people see things that we're talking about, but they just don't want to talk about it. It's scary, it's frightening, it will change their entire worldview. And I think they think silence is golden. But what happens when, let's just say we get some disclosure and they tell you what's really going on and what we're talking about the phase and the portals and the dimensions? What happens when all of this stuff that we're talking about right now is actual factual? What happens then?
Yeah, what happens when it's just in front of everyone, when everyone can see it
Mhm.
and can no longer be in denial about it, possibly.
Exactly. And that's my push. That's what I always try to tell people. You just never know, man. I mean, there's um remember towards the end of the year here in Texas, right? What you'll get lights in the sky, right? And most of the time it's just planets lining up, right? So I had seen this, and it's hard to get some of this stuff on camera. So I had seen this happen. I said, let me not jump to a conclusion. I may not be filming a fleet of aliens or spaceships or whatever, right? So right outside, I was going for my run. I used to run really early in the morning, right? And if I don't have any clients. So there were these three lined up planets. And I'm thinking, I got something, I got something. So I made a recording of it. But what got me was right to the left of that. And they're doing construction here, but this is 4:45 a.m. And there's this red orb. I'm thinking, okay, this makes sense. These are the planets lined up. This thing is moving around. And my fiance was with me. And she started panicking. And she was like, she didn't, let me tell you what she panicked at. She wasn't panicking at this or that. It's when we look straight up and we start seeing all of these, it was like a swarm of red orbs just flying around each other. And I did everything I could to try to get it on camera, and I couldn't. I tried. I went and got an additional camera. And when when I went back in, she said, I'm not coming back outside. I've seen how this movie ends. And I couldn't do anything but laugh. When I got back out, they were still swarming, but I couldn't get it on camera. So I'm looking across the street, the construction site, because there were actually people working because it was a children's hospital. And they were trying to get that thing up and running. I'm thinking, does anybody else see this, or is it just me and her? And I'm thinking, how can you be oblivious? And maybe because the light where they were at, you know how they get the pollution? So you can't really see if you look up, or maybe it's obscuring their view. But for us, all we did was look straight up, and there they were. And I thought, man, and again, when I see it, I am fascinated. Now, I don't want them to beam me up, Scotty. I don't want that to happen and never come back. But I'm so fascinated by what we're seeing, because as a kid, you always saw these things that terrified you. But now as an adult, you can try to sort of kind of make some of this stuff make sense, or at least you're able to stand there and go, yeah, I see it. So there's some legitimacy to these things that we're seeing. So yeah, that
I
that
haven't,
was
I haven't, I haven't seen a UFO, but I've been a
mhm,
UFO researcher for a lot of years, and I certainly think a lot of people have seen some very,
mhm,
very interesting things out there. And more, I think we can begin to correlate some of these cryptids, the aliens, maybe even put Bigfoot in that category. We don't know for sure. But all of
shadow.
these things that seem to have light phenomena, orb phenomena, sometimes craft associated with them, that
Mhm,
there may be some correlation. I think we don't quite have 100% proof of that by any means yet, but keep an open mind, like you said, and see where it goes.
mhm. That's what I always try to do. I don't ever, um, even when I've done speaking engagements, who are the most receptive to what you're talking about? The
What?
kids. The
Yes.
kids. I'm looking at the adults going, and I'm kind of silly. I'm trying to be comical and make sure that I keep the room light. And I said, now y'all really tell me y'all haven't seen anything out of the corner of your eye. You go, what was that? I said, stop playing. Nobody. So the kids raised their hand real slow and said, I've seen them, and I da 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 da. And they go through their spell. I'm going, huh. So no adult, and all of a sudden now the adults are starting to speak their mind. Now the adults are going, yeah, I saw this, and I have a video where I had spoken, and you could see them, the adults start talking. at the end. They even came to me at the end and was sharing stories. And I was like, you guys hit me up on Facebook or whatever. That way I can talk to you and get some of these stories, because there's no way I can get all the stories from you guys and keep it all in my head, because there's no way it's too many of you guys talking to me. And it was mostly the women that came to me. The guys were trying to be tough, and I'm thinking, man, that's cool that you're tough. I mean, I do what you do, feel how you feel, but you've seen things. You may not want to talk about them, but it gives you a different perspective on this world. I'll even say stuff like, how do you know your coworker isn't an alien? I'll say crazy stuff just to get people's go. And you know what happens? Somebody ends up talking later on about something that they seen. It's like you give the mouse cheese and it'll take the cheese, it'll take the bait. Next thing you know, you got a story. Now,
Absolutely.
everything, again,
Yeah.
and everything, don't get me wrong, every story isn't legit, but
That's true. Absolutely true. Have you heard any stories about a person that someone knows and then suddenly they turn into like a reptilian or a Bigfoot and then they transition back to human? Have you heard of that transitional kind of formation, like a shapeshifter sort of thing?
um, I I can't say that I have. I did see that article where that guy had they shot him. Did you see where they shot him? He was talking about the skinwalker, and
No, I haven't seen that.
he had a really bad breakdown. And it's made the national news, but they didn't talk about it like they should have. And the guy was, you could clearly see he was having an episode, but he said clear as day, the skinwalkers almost got me. He was coming down he was in a secluded area when they found him, and he was terrified. And I think he had been messing with meth or drugs or something like that. And he said that's when you got to take it with a grain of salt. But he clearly kept saying skinwalker. He said they've been after me for years and they're trying to get me. And he wouldn't calm down enough. And then the officer that shot him said that he came at them with a knife or something, and they shot him and they gunned him down. But the main topic was, he said he witnessed skinwalkers, and he was fortunate to get away from that. And I think the family is suing right now. The department that shot him. As far as seeing or hearing anybody that spoke about it, I don't know. But again, no, I was telling you about, you got coworkers that are weird, and you might be standing next to a coworker that's a skinwalker or reptilian, or they even say the guy with the closest that I've heard outside of that is, what's the guy that works with Facebook, Zuckerberg? They
Yes.
say that he said that he's a reptilian. I'm looking at him, I'm going, they might be on to something, because he does have he's got a weird look. And I have seen coworkers where they give you that off-putting feeling. Not that I can't stand that guy feeling, because that comes with it as well, but they give you a feeling that they're not maybe possibly what they could be, especially when you no longer work with them and you look back and remember some of the mannerisms. It's like, that was odd behavior. And I'm always paying attention to, coming up, as a kid in a rough neighborhood and stuff, you always pay attention to your environment, and you watch the activities of people. You watch their movements, so you don't get snatched up as a kid. In the 80s, you had to really be. In the 80s, they taught you not to speak to strangers, be on your P's and Q's, and to identify with stuff more so than they do now. And that's what I took. Anytime I'm dealing with people, I always try to look and check out mannerisms and activity and language and body language, and that's how I do it. But I haven't technically seen anybody shapeshift in front of me or anything like that. But I have heard of the stories you're talking about, as far as reptilian shape-shifting into this and then shape-shifting back into that. So I've heard of those stories.
Well, the other day I did an interview, and well, actually two interviews,
Mhm.
and it was kind of validating, because both of these had heard these stories. I don't think they had them as personal experiences, but they had heard these stories of they were in a crowd of people. One of them, they were in a crowd of people, and a Bigfoot dressed like a human, but was a Bigfoot, came up in the back of the group And
Hmm.
these two women were telling the story and saw this Bigfoot dressed as a human being, and they were in awe. And this Bigfoot just continued walking through the crowd, moving forward. And as it did, it transitioned into an actual human being with the same clothes on. So that was the first story. And then the second Bigfoot story of a kind of a Bigfoot shape shifting thing was a group of people in a van, and there was a younger man in the middle of the back seat.
Hmm.
And he, someone turned around and saw him and was just in, screaming or in awe of the situation, because this kid was still with his clothes on, turned into a Bigfoot. And he's like, what? I don't understand what's going on. And then transitioned back to himself. So those were just like really odd stories. But when I was doing UFO research, I'd also heard of the um, three cases where people kind of transitioned into a reptilian and then transitioned back to their regular body. So I just thought you might have heard of something like that, because you are tend to be a little bit more open to that kind of information.
I think did this situation happen like in the 70s or the late 70s? Are you talking about that one?
Most of these that I'm talking about, I mean, the Bigfoot ones, I don't know when they happened, but the reptilian ones that I'm talking about were personal, and there were just people that I'm the only one and them that know about it.
Okay, because I remember hearing something about the one where they were screaming in the van, and they said like a portal opened, and that kid, they said that one of the guys vanished. Excuse me. And in his place was a Bigfoot looking creature in there, and it was looking surprised and shocked and startled. And then within everybody was screaming and yelling, and the thing looked surprised, and it was looking like it was scared. And then just like that, it disappeared. And the kid, not the kid, but the person that was there in the beginning, he or she came back. He came back, but he was screaming and yelling, and they drove off as fast as they could, and they got out of that area because it was an area
Well,
that
it's
they weren't.
remarkably similar. It's a remarkably similar story. Not exactly the same, so I'm not sure if it's the very same one or not. But it could have gotten distorted over time, and had some elements of that same thing. But either way, it's a very odd thing
It is.
that anyone or anything could look or appear like an entity that is not like our normal human being looks. Like a reptilian doesn't look human. So that is kind of a strange thing that might possibly happen. How much do you think of all of this is, just like it's easy to fool our perceptions, it's like you can get tricked really easy looking at something. You can think it's one thing, but then it's something else. And how much do you think that sometimes it can just be explained by mere misunderstanding of our perceptions?
I think that, like I was telling you about the UFO thing that I seen. Again, originally, it's common. It's commonplace. Originally, when I first walked out, because I hadn't seen them, because I look out every morning when I run, and I'm like, I never see them, right? Then I looked again, and I thought, okay, this is what that is. And then some of the phones have those apps where you can see the constellation and the planets and stuff like that. Have you used those apps? Well, I lined my phone up, and then the phone actually, when I came out the third time, when I took the cameras back in, when I came out the third time, the red orbs were gone, but those planets still lined up. They were still there. And then I think when I used my app, it said Jupiter. I forgot, it was something. The planets were lining up, and I know it definitely said Jupiter. So I knew right then and there what it was. So a lot of times we may get confused with it. And I keep binoculars in my backpack, um, because if I'm out running, you'll see weird stuff. If you just look up, you'll just see weird stuff in the sky. And there's always this one thing in particular. It'll flash green, yellow, blue, red, green, yellow, blue, red, and it keeps on doing its thing, right? So I took out my binoculars to look at it. I'm thinking it's a star, still thinking it's a star, because I don't have any explanations for what it was. Even though I looked through the binoculars, I couldn't make out the shape, but the light still kept flash: blue, green, yellow, red, and even I think it had white in it as well. But it kept flashing all these colors, and I kept thinking, "What is this?" So I looked it up when I was in Austin, Texas, and I said, and a lot of the people had seen the same thing. Nobody really had an explanation for what it was. Not sure what it was. I'm thinking it could be a star. Um, and as you say, a lot of things that we're seeing, I think there could be explainable, easily explainable. But you can take 1,000 of those things, right? Easily explainable. But then that one thing that's in that group, 1,001 thing that you see, it puts everything else to bed because now it's validated by that one factual piece of evidence that you have right there in front of you. You can say, you know what? Discount this, explain this, and then you can't because it's actual factual DNA, body, crash, ship, shuttle, whatever you want to call it. There it is. Explain this. Those are the ones that you can't. Even Dr. Heinrich was talking about those. Those are the ones you can't explain. A lot of stuff is misidentified. It really is. I believe that. But what about that percentage? Even no matter how small it is, that you can't account for. What are those? Those are the things
Exactly.
that get me interested.
Yeah. Yeah, there are lots of things that have too many elements to them that prove that they are actually they're there. And someone somewhere may know what they are, but certainly the average Joe out here, like you and I, wouldn't be privy to a lot of that information if they do know, where they come from, what they are, where they come from, what they're doing here.
And Linda, what would they do to me and you? We did know. No, 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 no. You see what I mean?
I don't even want to go there.
You know what I mean? I don't even want to. I don't even. I don't even want to think about it. Like I was saying, just like me and you talking now, it makes me want to go to Utah to Skinwalker Ranch, and I just might because I'll take some of the viewers on. Like I say, if I have time, when I have time, I'll just get in the car in the summer and go. Whether it's to Roswell, Corona, where the actual crash is supposed to happen, the Sierra Nevadas, to the giant sequoias, and also looking for Bigfoot if I happen to run across it and see it. Devil's Tower, Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico, down there with the SETI huge satellite dishes are. Chichen Itza, Teotihuacan. Like I said, the Behringer, the big impact crater. This I forgot where is it. I just came back from all these places, and I try to go somewhere every year to clear up my bucket list. Just got back from Area 51. Like I said, just got back, and the places that just to make sure that these places are there and they're legit, and to see if I see some of what these people are seeing, people that are talking to me, and I make videos and I say, hey, look, I think the weirdest one was we come back from Roswell, right? Back in 2021. And the camera, I'm pointing at my camera, it has no Wi-Fi capabilities, right? Had it not hooked up to anything, it didn't have any Wi-Fi capability, right? And I get out thinking I'm about to give a good old speech. And I'm like, yeah, guys, just one minute. I told you I was going to bring you with me. And here I am at infamous Roswell, right? Get to talk. And I show the logo and show that I'm in Roswell, New Mexico. And I tell you, Linda, it was the weirdest thing in the world. I'm giving my presentation on what they say, what Jesse said he'd seen, the way you ball it up and it kept going back to original shape and all these things, right? I'm doing all of this, right? I talked for like 8 minutes, nothing. And my fiance, she was the one that looked at everything. She said, "You realize you don't have anything, right?" I said, "Huh? Batteries are fresh, brand new memory card, you name it, everything, right?" I look at the footage, right? And then I even put it on my YouTube. Everything started glitching the whole time. It was glitching, and I'm thinking, okay, what could have caused that? It glitched all the way out. My camera hasn't done that before, had never done it before or since. Now, I'm not saying that it was some kind of alien intervention. I'm not saying that. I am simply saying and sharing with you. I can send you the footage if you want to see that. It just completely you'll hear me and you'll see me in another spot. You'll see me in another spot. I'm thinking, I thought I had all of that to say what? And I didn't get to say anything. And you'll get a few people who go, hey, man, that's kind of weird. I'm like, do anybody want to comment and tell me what they think could have happened? Because again, it has no Wi-Fi capabilities, right? I have it. I don't have it connected to anything like that. I think my phone is the only thing that's got Wi-Fi capabilities, and one of my other smaller cameras, like my GoPro, it has some Wi-Fi capabilities. But I don't like hooking it up to those things. And the reason is because you have you ever been out, Linda, and you try to say if you are trying to record something and then the Wi-Fi can't pick up a signal where you can live stream? Have you had that happen?
No, I haven't had that happen.
And I don't do I was trying to do Area 51, right? I was like, here I am, you guys, here I am. And then I went to the back gate and I'm like, God, look at this, look at this, it's amazing. And they were like, and I couldn't live stream it. It just kept shutting down. I don't like that. So I don't try to connect anything to Wi-Fi. I'll just make a recording and a video and then I'll go from there and then I'll put it up on the post or anything, stuff like that. That way, would I like to have it right there and doing it live? Yes. But sometimes, man, that Wi-Fi, it ain't it's not friendly, if you will. It's not friendly. I don't know how some of these guys get footage at some of these spots that they go with the limited Wi-Fi capabilities of some of these phones and some of these rural areas where when you get in and you can't, it's so congested. I don't know how they do it. I literally don't know how they do it. So I personally just try to make recordings, save it, bring it back.